Prepare yourself for a chilling look behind the scenes of Hollywood's deadliest stunts gone wrong. From heart-stopping car crashes to breathtaking freefalls that turned fatal, we're diving into the terrifying moments that cost some of the bravest stunt performers their lives. It's a sobering reminder of the real dangers behind the blockbuster action. Stay tuned, because this is 1 hour of most disturbing stuntman deaths of all time.
November 24, 2007, and Conway Wycliffe, a New Zealand-born special effects technician, was working on the set of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Conway was 41 years old and had an impressive career, having worked on big-budget hits such as Batman Begins, Children of Men, and Casino Royale. His passion for his craft had taken him across the globe to work on some of the biggest blockbusters of his time. And now he was in Chertsey, Surrey, ready to make his contribution to what would become one of the most popular films of the late 2000s. That day, Conway was leaning out of the window of a 4WD Nissan, facing backward to capture the perfect shot of the stunt car. The vehicle he was in was driven by a man named Bruce Monroe Armstrong. The plan was simple: film the Batmobile as it sped parallel to their own vehicle, capturing the intensity and the epicness of the moment. As they approached a bend, the situation took a tragic turn. The Nissan veered slightly off course, clipping a bank before colliding with a tree. The impact, though at a relatively low speed of about 19 miles per hour, was severe enough to cause catastrophic damage. Conway didn't have his seatbelt on. Even more, his head was hanging out of the open window at the moment of the impact. As a result, his head got crushed between the tree and the car. His injuries were fatal. Fellow crew member Ian Mitchell watched in horror as the 4WD failed to turn onto the service road and instead continued into the grass, ultimately striking the tree. He rushed over to find Conway in a dire state, and calls for a medic were immediately made, echoing throughout the set. Despite their efforts, Conway was pronounced dead at the scene. Christopher Corbould, the special effects supervisor, faced scrutiny over the incident, but a court ultimately ruled Conway's death as an accident. In memory of Conway Wycliffe, the final credits of The Dark Knight read, "In memory of our friends Heath Ledger and Conway Wycliffe, a poignant reminder of the fragile line between life and art." It was November 3, 1994, on a film set in Los Angeles, California. The cast and crew of the comedy horror film Vampire in Brooklyn prepared for another day of shooting. Among the many professionals on set was Sonia Davis, a 27-year-old stunt performer. Sonia, who was doubling for actress Angela Bassett, was an experienced stunt woman with credits in films like Strange Days and Time Cop. However, this day would end in tragedy, with devastating consequences. Sonia was tasked with performing a 42-foot backward fall from the top of a building into an alleyway. The stunt required her to drop into a narrow space between buildings and land on a large airbag below. The airbag was supposed to cushion her fall, ensuring her safety. However, as she prepared for the stunt, Sonia expressed her concerns. "Are you sure?" she yelled to the stunt coordinator, Alan Olini. Her mother, Wanda Sapp, and her brother, who were watching from the set, could feel her unease. The fall was supposed to be straightforward. The airbag filled the alleyway entirely, and cinematographer Mark Irwin believed there was no way she could miss it unless something went wrong. On the day of the stunt, Sonia had gone through all the motions and was ready to execute the fall. However, as she let go and fell backward, she didn't relax as instructed. Instead, she pushed off too hard, causing her head to hit the opposing brick wall. Only the tips of her toes touched the airbag, and the rest of her body hit the pavement below. The impact was catastrophic. Sonia sustained severe injuries and was rushed to the hospital. Despite the medical team's best efforts, she succumbed to her injuries 2 weeks later. The accident was witnessed by her mother and brother, who were left traumatized by the horrific sight of Sonia's fall. Following Sonia's death, her mother filed a $10 million wrongful death lawsuit against Paramount Pictures, Eddie Murphy's production company, director Wes Craven, and stunt coordinator Alan Olini. The lawsuit alleged that Sonia had been pressured into performing the stunt despite her expressed concerns about its safety. Wanda Sapp recounted her daughter's last words, highlighting the fear and hesitation Sonia felt before the fatal fall. Sonia Davis's journey into the stunt industry began in the late 1980s, when she was introduced to the profession by stunt coordinator Greg Elam. At that time, Sonia was working as an aerobics instructor and nutritionist. She quickly fell in love with the adrenaline rush and physical demands of stunt work. She trained rigorously at Greg's stunt training facility in South Central Los Angeles, alongside his sons Usan, Kofi, and Keontae. As an African-American stunt woman, Sonia stood out in a field where diversity was limited. She performed a variety of stunts, including high falls, fights, motorcycle and auto stunts, and quickly gained recognition for her skills. She worked consistently, doubling for prominent actresses like Janet Jackson, Whoopi Goldberg, and Angela Bassett. Her dedication and talent earned her respect in the industry. Cinematographer Mark Irwin recalled the moments leading up to the fall. He described the airbag as being as large as a house, completely filling the alley. On the first night, an ambulance was present on set, but it was not there on the second night because the crew believed the airbag would ensure safety. Irwin later reflected on the incident, noting that Sonia had done all the necessary preparations and was aware of the scene's requirements. However, the moment of the fall went terribly wrong. Angela Bassett, who worked closely with Sonia, was deeply affected by her death. She released a statement through her publicist expressing her grief and admiration for Sonia. She was a dedicated artist, Bassett's statement read. Her work was extremely important to her, but first and foremost, she was a woman of God, and I love and miss her dearly. At 26 years old, Wu Yongning rose to fame on Chinese social media for his death-defying stunts atop skyscrapers, earning him the nickname Chinese Superman. He is also believed to be one of the pioneers of the roof-topping movement in China, captivating audiences with his fearless high-altitude exploits. Without a safety net or equipment, Wu would dangle dangerously from these buildings with one hand or perform pull-ups and balance on one arm. His repertoire also included scaling narrow beams and executing gravity-bending somersaults at these dizzying heights. He or his friends often recorded these feats, and whenever he posted a video, it quickly racked up millions of views from his million-plus followers. By 2017, Wu had posted more than 500 video clips and live streams, and he had started to earn some income from these posts through sponsorship deals and payment for views. On November 8, 2017, Wu set out to perform one of his signature pull-up stunts at the Huayuanhua Center in Changsha, the capital city of China's Hunan province. Determined to capture a breathtaking video, he reportedly free-climbed nearly 20 floors to reach his desired position. The climb alone was daring, showcasing his incredible skill and nerve. Once at the top, he began filming his latest stunt as planned. After completing several pull-ups, Wu found it difficult to pull himself back onto the building. Within a few seconds, he lost his grip and plunged approximately 45 feet toward the ground. The impact was fatal, and he died from his injuries during or shortly after the accident. His body was later discovered on a terrace below by a window washer. For the first few weeks after his death, Wu's fans were left in the dark about what had happened during his ill-fated stunt. However, they began questioning his absence when they noticed he had stopped posting new content on his social media pages. Rumors then began to swirl that he had died during one of his stunts, which his girlfriend later confirmed. Around the same time, a recording of his death began to circulate online, posted by an unidentified individual whom many presume was close to Wu. Amid the buzz created by the confirmation of Yongning's death, local news outlets reported that he had attempted the stunt to earn money from a reward offered in a contest. It was revealed that Yongning needed the money for his planned wedding proposal to his girlfriend, which was set to happen the day after the challenge. Additionally, he intended to use part of the reward money to cover medical expenses for his ailing mother. Wu's parents were angered by his death and filed a suit against several social media platforms that he used. They accused them of being responsible for his death because, as commercial enterprises, they shared the financial rewards Wu had received from his followers. Therefore, they partly encouraged his dangerous adventures. Eventually, the Beijing Internet Court ruled that the live-streaming app Huajiao should bear minor responsibility for the accident. The court ordered Huajiao to pay Wu's family 30,000 won, equivalent to $4,300 as compensation. Ultimately, Wu Yu's tragic death had minimal impact on the popularity of daredevil stunts on Chinese live streaming platforms. However, the Chinese government responded by imposing new regulations, requiring these platforms to increase oversight and content monitoring to curb such dangerous activities. 30th, 1993. Brandon Lee was filming one of his last scenes as Eric Draven, the main character of The Crow. At 28 years old, Brandon was a rising star and the heir to a huge legacy. He was the son of the legendary actor Bruce Lee. Brandon had inherited not only his father's martial arts prowess, but also his magnetic screen presence. The Crow, a dark and moody supernatural thriller, was meant to be his breakout role, the film that would launch him to stardom. But fate had a different, tragic plan. That evening, Brandon was preparing to film a scene where his character, Eric Draven, is brutally murdered by a gang of thugs. The scene was intense, demanding, and filled with raw emotion. The night before, while talking to his mother on the phone, Brandon told her he was happy about getting to film his last scene that involved weapons. He was ready for something new and was looking forward to his next project. As the cameras rolled that Tuesday, March 30th, 1993, Brandon's character, Eric Draven, walked into his apartment to find his fiancée being assaulted. In the chaos, a thug, played by Michael Massey, aimed a Smith & Wesson model 629-44 Magnum revolver at Brandon and pulled the trigger just as the scene was supposed to go. Earlier, the gun had been loaded with dummy rounds, real cartridges with the powder removed, leaving the primer intact. These rounds were designed to look real on camera without posing a danger. However, the crew had neglected a critical step, removing the primer. During a previous scene, one of these rounds was fired, and although it had no powder charge, the primer's energy was enough to lodge the bullet partway into the barrel, creating a dangerous squib load. For the fatal scene, the dummy rounds were swapped out for blanks, which are designed to produce the sound and flash of a gunshot without a projectile. But the lodged bullet was still in the barrel, unnoticed by the crew. By the time the crew started shooting, the film's armorer had already left for the day, considering that all was well. But all was not well. When Massey fired the blank round, the force propelled the lodged bullet forward, striking Brandon in the abdomen with almost the same force as a live round. The bullet sliced through Brandon. There was no blood as he fell. In fact, when the director called cut and Brandon remained on the floor, everybody assumed he was pulling a prank. Brandon was known for his sense of humor, so a prank wasn't out of the question. But he remained on the floor, unmoving. Jeff Amata, a fellow actor and friend, rushed to check on Brandon and quickly realized something was terribly wrong. Brandon Lee was unconscious and struggling to breathe. A medic was called. At first, the man shook Brandon, thinking maybe the actor had hit his head in the fall. Again, there was no visible bleeding, and Brandon's pulse was regular, at least at first. Within minutes, though, his pulse slowed dramatically. Then it stopped. The cruel reality set in, and Brandon was rushed to New Hanover Regional Medical Center. After 6 hours of surgery, Brandon Lee died in the early hours of Wednesday, March 31st, 1993. The shooting was ruled an accident due to negligence. Brandon was laid to rest next to his father at Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle, Washington. In the wake of the tragedy, Brandon's mother, Linda Lee Cadwell, filed a lawsuit against the filmmakers alleging negligence. The suit was settled out of court. The Crow was eventually released and is now considered a cult classic with a devoted fan base. It was April 4, 2002, in Prague, Czech Republic. Harry O'Connor, a 45-year-old retired Navy SEAL and experienced stuntman, was preparing for a complex scene in the movie XX. O'Connor was no stranger to danger. His career in both the military and the film industry had seen him take on numerous high-risk tasks. But on this day, things would take a tragic turn. Harry O'Connor was performing a paragliding scene for the film. The stunt required him to parasail down a line onto a submarine. The first take went smoothly and was successfully captured on camera. However, the director, Rob Cohen, wanted a second take to ensure they had the best possible shot. This decision would prove to be fatal for O'Connor. As O'Connor began his second descent, something went terribly wrong. He failed to lower himself quickly enough and collided with a pillar of the Palacky Bridge at high speed. The impact broke his neck, killing him instantly. Born on August 28, 1957 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Harry O'Connor had been passionate about skydiving since the age of 15. This passion led him to join the Navy, where he spent 20 years as a member of the Navy SEALs and the Navy parachute team, the Leapfrogs. His distinguished military career saw him rise to the rank of Master Chief before he retired. After leaving the Navy, O'Connor moved to California to pursue a career in Hollywood as a stuntman and aerial coordinator. O'Connor's work in the film industry was impressive. He contributed to several major movies, including Drop Zone, Titanic, Air Force One, and Charlie's Angels. His expertise in skydiving and stunts made him a valuable asset on any film set. Despite the inherent risks of his profession, O'Connor's love for the thrill of stunts never faded. On the day of the accident, the production team of XX immediately imposed an embargo on information regarding the incident. This was likely due to the shocking nature of the event and the need to investigate the circumstances thoroughly. The local police began an inquiry to determine if the accident was caused by a technical failure or a breach of safety protocols. Director Rob Cohen later commented on the accident, showing the risks stunt performers face. He stated, "We had 500 stuntmen involved with this picture. 499 didn't get a scratch. It shows you the lengths to which we will go to bring this kind of intense experience to the viewer. Stuntmen know they are in danger. They make their living through danger. Most of the time, it's all right. Sometimes, unfortunately, it isn't. Despite the tragic loss, the footage of O'Connor's successful first take was included in the final cut of the film, testimonies, serving as a tribute to his skill and bravery. The movie, starring Vin Diesel and Samuel L. Jackson, was primarily filmed in the Czech Republic and was directed by Rob Cohen. The plot centered around a professional sportsman in extreme sports who becomes a government intelligence agent tasked with destroying a Russian mafia gang. Harry O'Connor left behind a wife, Gemma-Lynn, and two daughters, Haley and Hannah. His death was a devastating blow to his family, friends, and colleagues. A military service was held on April 13, 2002, at the Navy Amphibious Base in Coronado, California, to honor his memory. Additionally, an honorary skydiving festival was organized at the Drop Zone in Paris Valley, California on April 27, 2002, followed by a celebration of life event. As a young child, Alex Harville developed a love for riding by often sitting on the front of his dad's bike. His passion for motorbikes grew as he watched legendary stunt performer Evel Knievel perform thrilling tricks on TV. Alex continuously honed his skills throughout his teenage years and adulthood, practicing his craft alongside fellow enthusiasts and competing in local competitions. His dedication and enthusiasm for motorbike stunts became the driving force behind his pursuit of excellence in the field. By 28, Alex Harville had already made a name for himself as a professional motocross racer and stunt performer. In 2013, he set his first Guinness World Record, making the longest dirt-to-dirt motorcycle ramp jump at the Horn Rapids Motorsports Complex in West Richland, Washington. For this record, he flew with his bike over a distance of 297.55 feet, almost the same length as an American football field. However, Alex rarely made a living from his passion despite pushing the limits of what was possible. To make ends meet and take care of his wife and two sons, he worked a day job at a farm in Othello. Despite the minimal financial rewards, he remained passionate about his craft and continued to strive for more records. Even a significant accident in 2017, which resulted in a broken heel during a practice ramp-to-ramp jump for a world record attempt at the Talladega Superspeedway, didn't deter him from pursuing his passion. Tragedy sadly struck in 2021 when Alex attempted to break the distance record for the longest motorcycle jump, set at 351 feet by Robbie Madison in March 2008. The venue was the Moses Lake Air Show, held at Grant County International Airport in Washington, where thousands of people were expected to be in the crowds. During the warm-up for the main jump, Alex crashed his Suzuki 450 into the top edge of the dirt landing ramp while driving at top speed. The impact ejected him from his bike and propelled him 20 feet into the air before he brutally impacted the ground, sustaining multiple injuries throughout his body. Within a few minutes, an emergency medical technician on site reached Alex and began administering initial treatments. An ambulance soon arrived and rushed him to a nearby hospital. Sadly, the injuries he sustained were too severe, and he died en route. Days later, the autopsy report released by the coroner's office revealed that Alex sustained blunt force trauma to the torso, which led to his death. The report also indicated that the impact from the handlebars on the motorbike was the likely cause of the fatal injuries. To honor Alex, videos of the accident that had made it online were taken down, leaving only photos for news purposes. Additionally, Madison, whose record Alex had attempted to break, released a statement about the incident, saying the news shattered him and that his heart was heartbroken for Alex's family. More condolences also came in from other enthusiasts and the Guinness World Record Company. On June 30th of that year, a public memorial was held for Alex in his hometown, Ephrata, Washington. A GoFundMe fundraiser was later opened to support the family he left behind, raising over $42,000 within days of its launch. In a surprising twist of events, Alex achieved one final victory posthumously. In 2012, he had leaped 425 feet at Toes MX Park in Royal City, Washington, a jump that should have counted as the longest ramp-to-dirt motorcycle jump. After his death, his mother, Debbie Chamberlain, applied for certification by Guinness World Records to honor his memory. In August 2022, Guinness World Records officially approved and recognized his incredible feat, solidifying Alex's legacy in stunt performance. It was July 23, 1982. The moon hung low over Indian Dunes, casting a ghostly glow on the sprawling landscape of Valencia, California. The location, a favorite for filmmakers throughout the 1980s, had seen its fair share of action, from the adventures of MacGyver to the drama of China Beach. But on this fateful night, it was the set of Twilight Zone the movie that transformed the quiet ranch into a scene of unspeakable tragedy. It was late at night, but the set was filled with crew members. 31-year-old John Landis, who had previously directed Animal House and An American Werewolf in London, was directing his film with his usual iron fist. It was no wonder everyone was on set. The night scene called for actor Vic Morrow to carry two young children, 7-year-old Micah Din Lei and 6-year-old Renee Xin-Yi Chen, out of a war-torn village and across a shallow river. At 53 years old, Vic Morrow was already a seasoned actor with an impressive portfolio of films. The children, however, weren't actors. In fact, they weren't even supposed to be on the set. Landis, the film's director, was violating California's child labor laws by having Micah and Ren there without the required permits, filming at such a late hour. This was also the reason why both Micah and Renee were being paid under the table. The scene was going to be a violent one. The script demanded intensity, with explosions and a hovering helicopter adding to the chaos. Vic Morrow was playing Bill Connor, a man who gets transported back in time to the Vietnam War, where he becomes a Vietnamese man desperately trying to protect two children from American soldiers. The helicopter, piloted by Vietnam War veteran Dorsey Wingo, was a key element in creating the sense of danger and urgency. And there were going to be some big explosions, despite the fact that the children's parents weren't aware of this not-so-small detail. Hovering at about 25 feet from the ground, the helicopter moved into position. Morrow, cradling the children, was supposed to heroically make his way through the river. The make-believe village behind the actors erupted into controlled flames, and Morrow started waddling through the river, carrying the two small children in his arms. It was meant to be a moment of cinematic brilliance, but instead, it became a nightmare. As Wingo maneuvered the helicopter, a large mortar effect detonated below, sending debris and a metal lid hurtling into the tail rotor. The rotor, crucial for stabilizing the aircraft, shattered upon impact. The pilot was scared out of his mind, but he was new in the business and didn't want to disrupt the shoot. He barely moved as the helicopter began to spin uncontrollably. Vic Morrow allegedly believed he was going to die in a helicopter crash. Down below, the actor had just dropped Renee. Micah was still in his arms when the out-of-control helicopter plummeted towards them. The main rotor blades struck Morrow and Micah, slicing through them. Renee was crushed by the helicopter's right landing skid. In a heartbeat, all three lives were extinguished. The chaos and noise of the set were replaced by an eerie silence as the reality of what had happened settled over the stunned crew. Then Renee's mother started screaming, breaking the horrible spell. A real-life tragedy was unfolding in front of them. The pilot survived miraculously. Law enforcement arrived on scene just before dawn. The aftermath was a whirlwind of investigations and courtrooms. At the trial, it was revealed that the pilot, upon seeing the explosions, had tried to steer clear, only to lose control completely. Production manager Dan Allingham had sensed the danger and called for a break, but director John Landis insisted the helicopter got lower and lower. Stephen Lydecker, another camera operator, testified about Landis's cavalier attitude towards the stunt's risks. He recounted a chilling remark made by Landis: "We may lose the helicopter." Lydecker, as well as many others, believed Landis's dismissive attitude was to blame for the tragedy. The legal battles raged for over a decade. Landis, along with 4 others, faced charges of manslaughter but were ultimately acquitted. In a 1996 interview, Landis said the tragedy, which he thought about every day, had an enormous impact on his career, from which he might possibly never recover. It was October 2011 in Bulgaria. Kun Liu, a 26-year-old Chinese stuntman, was on the set of the action film The Expendables 2. He had been working in the film industry for several years and was respected by his peers. On this particular day, Kun was performing a stunt that involved an explosion while on a rubber boat near the Onyanovo Reservoir. The stunt was supposed to be a controlled explosion, a standard procedure in action movies. Kun Liu and another stuntman were both involved in the scene. The explosion was planned to be a significant but safe blast that would add dramatic effect to the film. However, things did not go as planned. As the cameras rolled, the explosion occurred. But instead of the controlled blast that was expected, the explosion was much larger and more powerful. The blast resulted in catastrophic consequences. Kun Liu was severely injured by the explosion. The force of the blast caused fatal injuries, and Kun died at the scene. The other stuntman involved in the scene was also seriously injured but managed to survive. The news of Kun Liu's death spread quickly. His family, friends, and colleagues were devastated. Kun Liu's parents, Liu Zhongyu and Bai Yanmei, were inconsolable. Their son had been taken from them in a tragic accident that could have been prevented. The family soon decided to take legal action against the film's producers, Millennium Films, and the movie's stunt coordinator, Chad Stahelski. In 2012, Kun Liu's parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit. They claimed that the filmmakers and the stunt coordinator had negligently and carelessly failed to provide adequate protection from harm to the participants of the stunts. The lawsuit sought compensation for funeral and burial expenses, as well as the loss of society, love, comfort, attention, services, and support that Kun Liu provided. The legal battle was long and grueling. It lasted 4 years, during which the family had to endure the pain of losing their son while fighting for justice. In the end, the High Court ruled in favor of Kun Liu's family. The court ordered Millennium Films and New Image to pay the family 195,000 Hong Kong dollars, equivalent to about 25,000 US dollars. The court's ruling, however, was met with outrage by many. Fans and supporters of Kun Liu felt that the compensation amount was insufficient and devalued human life. The sentiment was that no amount of money could replace Kun Liu, but the ruling did not reflect the gravity of the loss. Amidst the controversy, a piece of heartwarming news surfaced. International action superstar Jet Li, who had a brief guest star role in The Expendables 2, made a significant donation to Kun Liu's family. Jet Li reportedly donated 5.8 million Hong Kong dollars, which is nearly 750,000 US dollars, to Kun Liu's parents. This donation was more than 30 times the amount awarded by the court. Jet Li, known for his generosity and charitable acts, intended for the donation to remain private. He wanted to offer his condolences and support to the grieving family without attracting media attention. However, the news of his donation eventually became public, and many praised Jet Li for his kindness and compassion. Kun Liu's parents, Liu Zhongyu and Bai Yanmei, expressed their gratitude for Jet Li's generous donation. While no amount of money could bring their son back, Jet Li's support provided some solace during their difficult time. The film The Expendables 2, which featured an all-star cast including Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jet Li, was released in 2012. Despite the tragedy that occurred during its production, the film went on to become a commercial success. In the aftermath of Kun Liu's death, the film industry continued to reevaluate safety protocols to prevent such accidents from happening again. The case also became a reminder of the need for adequate compensation and support for the families of those who lose their lives while working risky jobs. It was October 21st, 2021. 42-year-old cinematographer Halyna Hutchins was working as the director of photography on the set of Rust, a Western film directed by Joel Souza and starring famous actor Alec Baldwin, who was also one of the film's producers. Halyna was an incredibly talented cinematographer, whose eye and visual style allowed her to work on several sets. She was regarded as someone who could handle any amount of pressure, possibly because of her childhood. Halyna was Ukrainian and she grew up on a Soviet military base in the Arctic, where her father served with the Soviet Army. It was at the military base that she first became interested in film. She studied at the Kiev National University, and after that, she became a journalist working on documentary films. Her career in Hollywood started after she met her husband during a trip to the U.S. in 2005. Halyna then decided to move to the U.S., and the rest was history. In 2021, the couple also had a 9-year-old son. That Thursday, October 21st, 2021, Halyna was at work on the set of Rust near La Cienega, New Mexico. They were going to film a shootout scene inside a church, which could be tricky. As such, actor Alec Baldwin, who was the star of the scene, decided to rehearse before the actual thing. Halyna assisted him as he practiced a gun drawing technique. First Assistant Director David Halls handed Baldwin the gun he'd use in the scene, a Pieta 45 Colt revolver. As he did so, David Halls proclaimed "cold gun," a standard saying that let the crew know the gun didn't have live rounds. There was no reason for anyone to believe otherwise. After all, the set also had an armorer, a woman named Hannah Gutierrez Reed, who handled the guns and made sure everything was in order and safe. Despite this, there had been at least 2 incidents involving the guns before, and some of the crew didn't feel entirely comfortable. Alec Baldwin clutched the revolver as he talked to Halyna Hutchins. He explained the process, showing the director of photography what he was going to do. "So I guess I'm going to take this out, pull it and go, bang," the actor said. As soon as he said bang, a lead bullet, a real bullet, ripped through Halyna's chest before finding its home in director Joel Souza's shoulder. Helena fell backward. Terrified, crew members gathered around her. The woman locked eyes with the boom operator and said her last words ever, "That was no good, that was no good at all." Actor Alec Baldwin shouted in shock. Helena Hutchins was rushed to the hospital, but she was pronounced dead hours later. How could something like this happen, and who was responsible? The world of film demanded answers. Almost a month after the incident, on November 17th, the film's script supervisor filed a civil suit accusing Baldwin of playing Russian roulette by pointing a Colt .45 revolver at Hutchins. A few days later, on December 2nd, the actor spoke out publicly in an interview, saying he had no idea how a live bullet got onto the set. Baldwin's status as one of the film's producers meant some people believed him at least partially responsible for the lack of safety on set. Helena's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit in February 2022. According to the suit, Helena died because of reckless behavior and cost-cutting by Baldwin and others. The family announced they'd reached a settlement in their lawsuit on October 5, 2022. In November, Baldwin himself sued the film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, as well as several other crew members for negligence. The actor himself was formally charged with involuntary manslaughter in January 2023, alongside the film's armorer. He pleaded not guilty, and the charges against him were dismissed in the spring of 2023, only to be indicted on a new involuntary manslaughter charge in January 2024. He once again pleaded not guilty. The film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 18 months in prison in March 2024. Alec Baldwin is scheduled for trial on July 9, 2024. John Bernecker's remarkable athletic ability and charismatic personality made him an ideal fit for his dream job as a stunt performer in movies and television. He quickly succeeded in the industry, performing in at least 90 feature films and television shows. His impressive resume included notable titles such as Jonah Hex, Green Lantern, The Hunger Games franchise, Logan, and The Fate of the Furious, where his exceptional skills and dedication earned him widespread recognition and respect. Tragically, while working on the set of The Walking Dead in July 2017, John experienced a fatal accident. He fell 30 feet to a concrete floor while rehearsing a fight scene with an actor. The scene was supposed to conclude with a routine fall from a balcony, but Bernecker lost his footing and missed the safety pad by a few inches, landing on his head and neck and becoming unconscious. Initially, they hoped to save John. However, within 2 days of being taken to the hospital, he was pronounced brain dead and taken off life support. Since his other organs were viable, his family chose to donate them through LifeLink of Georgia. This non-profit organization helps recover organs and tissue for transplantation to those in need. John's death, the first stunt-related fatality in the U.S. in over 17 years, attracted significant media attention. It raised questions about the safety standards on the set of The Walking Dead, prompting many to speculate whether his tragic accident could have been avoided. In response, AMC, the show's creators, issued a statement confirming that they had adhered to industry standards for stunt safety throughout the production of multiple seasons. They also claimed that John's death was an unfortunate and isolated accident. However, John's parents were dissatisfied with the company's explanation. They believed the production had failed to provide a safe working environment for her son and other stunt performers. They also argued that the accident could have been prevented if the show had strictly adhered to established safety guidelines and taken additional precautions to protect their cast and crew. After several media exchanges, they hired a lawyer to explore a civil lawsuit against AMC and the production companies filming The Walking Dead. On January 18th, the lawsuit was initiated, with their lawyer asking the court for damages totaling between $40 million and $100 million. They also requested the jury to consider punitive damages to serve as a deterrent for other production companies. The 6-week trial in December 2019 saw John's parents' lawyer argue that the stunt could have gone wrong in numerous ways, but there was a lack of planning to address potential issues. He claimed that safety practices were compromised due to financial and scheduling concerns at the production companies. Meanwhile, AMC's lawyers argued that there was no way the stunt coordinators could have foreseen that John would miss the middle of the catcher pad by 9 feet. They maintained that there was a team of people on and off the set to ensure safety and that an outside consultant had been contacted, which proved AMC's commitment to safety. AMC's legal team also pointed out that there had been no other accidents on the set in the past. They further mentioned John's record of being safety conscious, emphasizing that he would not have knowingly or willingly put himself in harm's way. Following the trial, the production companies, except AMC, were found negligent in John's death. They were ordered to pay $8.6 million in compensation to John's family. However, this victory was short-lived. A court of appeals later ruled that the Workers' Compensation Act barred civil claims brought by John's parents and ultimately overturned the earlier verdict. John was a member of the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists at the time of his death. He also owned Prodigy Stunts Limited Liability Company, which he considered his stunt family. Beyond these commitments, he mentored and encouraged many aspiring stunt performers to pursue their dreams. John was eventually laid to rest at Metairie Cemetery in New Orleans, leaving a legacy of inspiration and dedication to his craft. It was August 14, 2017, in Vancouver, British Columbia. Sequana Joy Harris, a 40-year-old professional motorcycle road racer, was on the set of Deadpool 2. Harris was performing a motorcycle stunt as a double for the character Domino, played by Zazie Beetz. This was Harris's first time working as a stunt performer. The day started like any other, but it would end in tragedy. Joy Harris was known for her skill and bravery on the motorcycle racing circuit. She was the first African-American woman to be licensed as a motorcycle road racer. She began riding motorcycles in 2009 and started racing professionally in 2014. Despite her extensive experience on the racetrack, Harris had never performed stunts in a movie before. The transition from racing to stunt work is not uncommon, as many athletes in various sports find their way into Hollywood stunt work. On that day, Harris was tasked with a stunt that involved riding a Ducati Hyperstrada 939. She had practiced the stunt several times before the actual shoot, gradually increasing the speed to match the full speed required for the scene, which was between 20 to 25 kilometers per hour. The stunt appeared straightforward. Harris was supposed to ride down a series of ramps and come to a controlled stop. However, as she transitioned onto the ramp, she lost control of the motorcycle. According to the BC Coroner's Service, Harris accelerated instead of stopping as planned. The motorcycle continued over the second ramp, became airborne, and crashed into the window of a building. Harris was ejected from the bike and suffered severe blunt force traumatic head injuries. She was not wearing a helmet at the time, which significantly contributed to the severity of her injuries. Despite immediate medical attention, Joy Harris was pronounced dead shortly after the accident. The investigation into the incident revealed several safety errors. WorkSafe BC, the Workers' Compensation Board of British Columbia, conducted an in-depth investigation. Their report highlighted numerous violations of safety standards by TCF Vancouver Productions, the company behind Deadpool 2. The report stated that the production company failed to conduct a comprehensive risk assessment addressing safety controls, the speed of the motorcycle, and equipment limitations. Moreover, they did not ensure that Harris was wearing a safety helmet, nor did they provide adequate supervision during the stunt. One of the critical findings of the report was that the production company had not conducted a thorough risk assessment before the stunt. This lack of preparation and oversight played a significant role in the accident. The report stated that the barriers should have been in place to prevent Harris from leaving the set perimeter. The absence of such barriers allowed the motorcycle to continue unchecked, leading to the fatal crash. The findings of WorkSafe BC resulted in a substantial fine of nearly $300,000 against TCF Vancouver Productions. This fine was imposed due to the multiple high-risk violations of safety standards. The investigation's findings also indicated that these violations could lead to an administrative penalty for the company. The death of Joy Harris shocked the film industry. Ryan Reynolds, the star of Deadpool 2, expressed his grief and devastation over the accident. He acknowledged the profound loss felt by Harris's family and loved ones. The film's production team, while maintaining that safety was their top priority, reviewed and revised their stunt safety protocols following the tragic incident. Harris's family reached an out-of-court settlement with the studio earlier in the year, though the details of the settlement were not disclosed. The family, friends, and the motorcycle racing community mourned the loss of a trailblazer and a passionate individual who had broken barriers in her field. Despite her lack of experience as a stunt performer, Harris was not an unqualified novice. She had been riding and racing motorcycles for nearly a decade. Her expertise on the track was undeniable. However, the transition to stunt work in Hollywood is not without its challenges. The pressure of performing stunts on a movie set, especially for the first time, can be immense. The expectations and the need to get the shot right add a layer of stress that can lead to mistakes. One of the controversies that emerged following Harris's death was the issue of diversity in Hollywood stunt work. Reports indicated that one of the reasons Harris was hired was because the executive producer wanted a stunt double who was an African-American woman to match the appearance of Zazie Beetz' character. While this decision was commendable in promoting diversity, it also raised questions about the appropriateness of the preparation and safety measures taken for Harris's stunt. Veteran stuntman Malcolm C. Murray provided context on the pressures and challenges faced by stunt performers, particularly those of color. He emphasized that the decision to hire a stunt performer ultimately rests with the stunt coordinator, who must ensure that the performer is ready and capable of executing the stunt safely. The lack of a helmet for Harris, due to the character Domino not wearing one, was a significant oversight. Custom-made helmets with wigs could have been used to maintain character continuity while ensuring the performer's safety. On February 20, 2014, Sarah Jones was a camera assistant working her first day on the set of Midnight Rider, a biopic about rock musician Gregg Allman. At 27 years old, Sarah was steadily breaking through in her industry. She had worked on multiple sets, such as the one of the smash hit TV series The Vampire Diaries. She was a cheerful person who never shied away from work. This would be her chance to work with some big names in the industry. But Sarah never got to finish her first day on set. That day, Sarah went to work knowing that something was a bit off. She'd spent the previous night talking to her father, a man called Richard Jones. During their phone conversation, Sarah told her father she was a bit nervous about the movie. There were several things bothering her. She was surprised to know that the movie was low budget, despite the fact that it had big names attached to it, such as actor William Hurt, who was playing Gregg Allman in the biopic. Moreover, Sarah made a comment about how some of the people asking her questions were supposed to be her superiors, and as such were supposed to know more than her. She found the whole thing odd, but it wasn't enough to deter her, not with her pristine work ethic. As such, she arrived at work and carefully followed director Randall Miller's instructions. They were filming a dream sequence near a 110-year-old bridge trestle over the Altamaha River in Wayne County, Georgia. The land was untamed and full of rivers. As the day progressed, the director decided to move the shoot. The cast and crew left the land beside the river and went to the trestle itself. They were planning to shoot a dream sequence with William Hurt as Gregg Allman on a heavy metal hospital bed on the railroad trestle above the river. Despite its age, the railroad was still in use, and possibly unbeknownst to a lot of crew members, CSX, the rail company, had asked the film's producers to move to another location. In other words, they were shooting the film on the trestle without the rail company's knowledge or permission. As you can imagine, things could become dangerous very quickly. Before the actual shooting of the scene began, the crew was told that in the event a train appeared, they would have 60 seconds to clear the tracks. A minute. That's what would make the difference between life and death. Hearing this, the crew became increasingly nervous. Some of them started a praying circle, but they kept working. They had a movie to shoot. Sarah Jones was everywhere that day. She helped load film, she monitored the cameras, and transported expensive equipment. The crew placed a twin-size metal-framed bed and mattress in the middle of the tracks. It was supposed to be an interesting dream sequence. Instead, it turned into a real-life nightmare. Soon after they placed the bed on the tracks, the crew heard a noise growing louder and louder. When they looked up, they saw a freight train hurtling toward them, its locomotive howling. 60 seconds. That's all the time they had to get away from the tracks. But in order to do so, they had to run in the direction the train was coming from. The director, Randall Miller, yelled at everyone to run, but Sarah Jones was diligent. She cared about her job. She stopped and hauled several bags of gear on each shoulder. She shouted, asking what to do about the camera equipment. Everybody yelled at her to drop it and run. In the meantime, other members of the crew, including the director, attempted to remove the metal bed from the tracks, fearing it could derail the approaching train and lead to a tragedy. However, their efforts were futile. The bed was too heavy, and the train was moving too quickly. When the train struck the bed and mattress with great force, it scattered debris. One piece of this debris struck Sarah Jones, who was attempting to find safety on the gangplank. The impact knocked her onto the tracks, and she was subsequently hit by the train, killing her instantly. Only her mangled body was left behind. Upon seeing Sarah's body, some members of the crew started screaming. The director cried. The crew was traumatized, but they helped collect Sarah's body until a team of paramedics arrived. Several members of the crew were also injured and needed serious medical attention. Director Randall Miller served 2 years in prison before going on probation for his part in the accident. The film's executive producer, Jay Sedrish, was initially sentenced to 10 years in prison, but his sentence was limited to probation with no jail time. Midnight Rider, the film, was never finished and released. Almost 1,000 people attended Sarah Jones's funeral. Her tragic death sparked Safety for Sarah, a campaign for increased safety in film production. By age 25, Jackson Coe had made a name for himself as an extreme stuntman, renowned for his fearless approach and eagerness to push the boundaries of stunt performance. Coe frequently posted breathtaking photos and videos on his Instagram page, showcasing his daring exploits. These posts featured him scaling high-rise buildings, performing backflips off boats and ledges, or casually sitting on the edges of tall structures with a calm demeanor and a wide grin, captivating audiences with his audacity and skill. From all indications, Coe had his life ahead of him. However, in July 2018, his promising future took a tragic turn. Police officers responded to a 911 call about a man not breathing in the backyard of 160 Waverly Place near Grove Street. Upon arrival, they found Coe to be the individual, but he appeared unconscious. A further check on Coe's body by the police officers revealed that he had injuries sustained from falling from the top of the building. Next to him was a beer can, leading both the authorities and the individual who called 911 to assume he had been drinking before his fall. Minutes after arriving, the responders assessed the situation and concluded that Coe had died, presumably from the severe injuries sustained during his fall. Despite their swift response, they could do nothing to revive him. The subsequent autopsy report confirmed this conclusion, detailing the extent of the injuries and providing a somber validation of the initial assessment. The tragic loss profoundly impacted those who knew him, underscoring the inherent dangers of his daring pursuits. Following Jackson Coe's death, Grubhub, the food delivery service company he worked for, released a statement expressing its sadness over the loss and extending condolences to his family and friends. Coe's friend, Louis Kahn, also posted an Instagram tribute, reflecting on their cherished memories and deep sorrow over the loss. To date, the exact circumstances of Jackson Coe's fatal fall remain unclear, whether it was an accident during a stunt, a slip from the roof, or influenced by alcohol. Despite the uncertainty, the police did not suspect foul play in the incident. They conducted a thorough investigation and, finding no evidence of criminal activity, released Coe's body to his grieving family. They laid him to rest, honoring his adventurous spirit and the fearless legacy he left behind. It was September 16, 1985, in San Bernardino, California. Art Skoll, a renowned stunt pilot, was preparing for another day of filming. He was an expert in aerial stunts and had worked on numerous movies and TV shows. He was filming for the upcoming blockbuster movie, Top Gun. Art was 53 years old and known for his careful preparation and cautious approach to flying. His wife, Judy, often worked alongside him, and today was no different. Art had been tasked with filming plate shots, background scenes that would be used behind actors like Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer during the movie. The stunt he needed to perform was an inverted flat spin, a maneuver he had taught to hundreds of students over his 18-year career as an aviation instructor. For Art, this was a routine stunt. Art and Judy left their home and headed to Edwards Air Force Base north of Los Angeles. After completing some filming over land, they had lunch together before Art swapped airplanes and flew to Palomar Airport in Carlsbad. There he met the camera crew and prepared for the shoot over the Pacific Ocean. The day was clear and everything seemed to be going as planned. Art communicated with the observer plane flying behind him, ensuring they kept a safe distance to avoid being caught in the shot. He radioed that he was starting the inverted flat spin. As Art began the maneuver, he radioed again, "I have a problem." Just seconds later, he added, "I have a real problem." The observer plane lost sight of Art's aircraft. When they reached the area, they found only debris and oil floating on the water. Art's plane had vanished into the ocean and he was nowhere to be found. Back at Rialto Airport, Judy was waiting for Art's return. When the observer plane landed without Art, she knew something was terribly wrong. The crew confirmed her worst fears. Art was not coming home. Art's plane was equipped with a parachute and a life vest, and the observer plane also had life vests and a life raft. Despite this, neither Art nor his plane were ever recovered. The crash occurred about 5 miles off the coast near Carlsbad in deep water, making recovery efforts nearly impossible. The National Transportation Safety Board conducted an investigation and concluded that spatial disorientation might have been the cause. However, without the plane or any recording devices, the exact cause remains a mystery. Judy speculated that a control failure, a camera jam, or even disorientation might have led to the crash. Despite this, there are no definitive answers. Art Skoll was not just a pilot, he was a showman and an educator. His love for aviation was infectious, and he shared it with everyone around him. He performed in air shows, taught countless students, and contributed significantly to the movie industry. His work on Top Gun was supposed to be another feather in his cap, but instead, it became the final chapter of his life. Judy Scholl, also a pilot, continued to fly and remained involved in the aviation community. She remembered Art as a meticulous and safety-conscious pilot who loved his work. The shock of his death was immense, but she chose not to pursue legal action against the Top Gun producers, believing that there was no one to blame. Art's death left a significant void in Judy's life and the lives of his two sons from a previous marriage, David and John. Despite the tragedy, Judy continued to run their aviation business and stayed connected to the film industry, providing airplane mock-ups to studios. Art Scholl's contributions to aviation and filmmaking are remembered by many. His final words, "I have a problem, I have a real problem," echo the uncertainty and danger that come with stunt flying. The mystery of his crash remains unsolved, but his legacy lives on in the films he worked on and the students he taught. The release of Top Gun, Maverick brought back memories of Art for Judy. She believed that Art would have been excited to see the new film and the advancements in aerial photography. Despite the pain of losing him, Judy continued to embrace the aviation world, a gift that Art had given her. 40-year-old Joyce Aquana Harris's lifelong passion for motorcycles began in childhood. 2009, she took her first step toward this dream by learning to ride. Her dedication paid off within 5 years when she earned her racing license. Joy didn't stop there. She broke barriers by becoming the first African-American woman to race professionally in motorcycle road racing. Her determination and skill led her to establish her racing team, Threader Racing, where she continued to inspire and break new ground in the racing world. In 2017, Harris's career took an unexpected turn when she was hired as a stuntwoman for the blockbuster Deadpool 2, doubling for actress Zazie Beetz, who portrayed Domino. Despite her extensive experience as a motorcycle racer, stunt work presented new challenges. Harris had never worked as a stunt performer or ridden a Ducati, the motorcycle selected for her scene. However, the producers of Deadpool 2 were confident in her abilities, believing she only needed a few rehearsals before performing the scene. Days before the primary shooting, Harris had performed 7 stunt rehearsals, upping the ante every time. By the final rehearsal, she was tackling the stunt at full speed of 20 to 25 kilometers per hour, which implied that she was ready. On D-Day, Harris drove the motorcycle down the first ramp that made up the stunt course. This was where the unexpected happened. For some reason, she lost control of the bike and it accelerated instead of coming to a controlled, planned stop. With Harris no longer in control, the motorcycle continued over a second ramp and surged into the air at full stunt speed. A few horrifying seconds passed before the inevitable impact, a bone-jarring crash against the concrete median of a nearby roadway. The sheer force of the collision violently ejected Harris from the motorcycle, propelling her with immense speed and force. She hurtled through the air, crashing through the window of a nearby tower, a scene of utter devastation and tragedy that left onlookers in shock and disbelief. Emergency health services arrived within minutes to rush Harris to the hospital. Tragically, she was pronounced dead before arrival. An autopsy confirmed she died from blunt force head injuries caused by the collision, with the lack of a helmet contributing to her death. Producers later claimed the scene did not require a helmet. Toxicology results showed no alcohol, prescribed medication, or illegal drugs, leaving the cause of Harris's sudden loss of control a mystery. Following the incident, government investigators thoroughly examined the safety measures on the film set. Their final report cited several critical failures of TCF Vancouver Productions Limited. As a result, the company was fined $300,000 for its negligence and lack of proper safety protocols, highlighting the need for stricter enforcement of safety standards in the industry. According to the investigators, TCF failed to conduct a risk assessment addressing safety controls, speed of the motorcycle, and equipment limitations. They also stated that TCF needed help to complete important health and safety documentation, including a stunt safety inspection checklist and a production activity notification checklist, as required by its health and safety program. Furthermore, they cited TCF for failing to ensure the health and safety of the stunt performer by failing to provide adequate supervision concerning the work activity. As with most accidents, the victim's family typically receives compensation from the company. However, in Harris's case, the insurance company for Fox, the film's owners, indicated they would fight the family on every front. Fortunately, Fox executives avoided the potential legal drama by discussing the settlement directly with Harris's family lawyer. They agreed, though they did not disclose the amount to the public. Movie fans, cast members, and crew, including lead actor Ryan Reynolds and director David Leitch, paid heartfelt tributes to Harris. The tragic incident prompted the crew to pause filming, allowing everyone to process the loss temporarily. Despite the somber atmosphere, they resumed production as scheduled, driven by a commitment to honor Harris's memory. When Deadpool 2 was released in 2018, the film's credits featured a special dedication to Harris, immortalizing her contribution and legacy in the hearts of viewers and colleagues alike.